So a lot of boomers don't seem to know what Antifa is, and I want to talk a little bit about how Gen Z uses words through the lens of internet culture. I think when a lot of boomers hear Antifa, they're imagining a formal organization, like a militia or a secret society, who all wear matching uniforms and meet up regularly and are card carrying members of a thing. But there is not any significant or meaningful organization called Antifa. Gen Z thinks in terms of identity labels a lot. I suspect this originates from the fast pace of the social media age, where you have a short bio or you want to search things, so everything became tag, keyword, topic based. Like genre tags. This is a very efficient way to describe yourself. And it's often not about what you do, but how you describe yourself, what you like, a group you want to feel a part of. Like when a Gen Z person describes themselves as a feminist, they're not talking about a formal organization or something they do, or maybe a movement, but it's mostly just they're describing an opinion they have. It's about self-expression, which you'd expect people to start doing when they're teenagers or in their early 20s. And there can be a lot of micro labels that might even apply to you and me, but we just don't care about needing a word that specific. Someone calling themselves Antifa just means they are against fascism, which is really an opinion almost everybody holds. And of course, people have dug up old logos and symbols from historical movements and thrown it onto merch, like patches and stuff, that anyone could buy or sell. But it's not like an organized official thing. To the extent someone may call themselves Antifa and do Antifa stuff, like go to protests, and to the extent someone may go to a protest as Antifa and do Antifa stuff, it's going to be something they personally decided to do, organized through like a group chat with some people they knew, or through some local organization, either independently calling themselves Antifa, or maybe through like a local DSA chapter or something like that. But there's nothing like right-wing militias like the Proud Boys. The concept of a member of Antifa doesn't really make sense. And if you've ever met a young person who identifies as an anarchist in the political theory book definition sense, usually a very white and kind of annoying college kid, they use the word anarchist just to mean they hold the opinion that they don't like organized, centralized hierarchies governing things. Basically, that they don't want to be in any organization with formal centralized leadership. So they don't really have any reach beyond a local group or an online friend group. And I think that's why Antifa failed as a boogeyman in the 2020 election cycle, because they're just not enough of a real thing anyone could see. Self-described leftists who do not identify as liberals or Democrats and consider them their enemies are infamous for infighting amongst themselves into small little factions about theoretical labels, and they never really organize themselves or get anything done big picture. I know a lot of people worry about property damage at protests and stuff, and I agree. I think that's bad and does not need to happen. And some of that may even be done by people who identify as Antifa or anarchists or something like that. But that doesn't mean it's part of any bigger thing, really. And I guarantee it's followed by small online forums somewhere arguing about the optics of that back and forth. And this brings me back to the Bella Ciao bullet casing. It's a reference to a historically famous Italian anti-fascist song related to the historical Italian anti-fascist movement, for which there is no formal relation, connection, education, or even awareness related to random white kids today. Like, this could be popular in some leftist groups somewhere, but to me, that just sounds like trivia. I've never really heard of that before. And also, young people, especially young white boys in their teenage years, love learning a little bit about history and politics and will flip through the political compass and weird, obscure historical ideologies as different labels all over the place. One week, they could identify as an anarcho-capitalist, the next a Marxist-Leninist, or an anarcho-syndicalist, or a white identitarian. A lot of these labels are kind of code words for racist and doesn't really know about anything else. They learn about this through YouTube videos about history, especially military history, from memes about different political ideologies, on forums dedicated to these topics on places like 4chan, Reddit, and Discord, and from video games, which commonly feature combat systems, and a lot of them are historical military-inspired shooters. Have you heard of Call of Duty? There's a lot more games than Call of Duty, but similar to that. Bella Ciao is in Hearts of Iron 4. And this is how a lot of young white boys who bounce around political ideologies, taking up beliefs as they go, or especially on the alt-right, where they love fixating on violent games about guns, especially where they can play as fascist armies, can learn about random things, including bits of obscure anti-fascist history. And this is how, for young people, you can have one girl who is super involved in soup kitchens or going to local protests and campaigning for progressive candidates in her town, and is practically, existentially, by all traditional labels, pretty far on the left. But something like Bella Ciao will sooner be on the radar of someone who is really online, stays in their room all day, and is alt-right. They'll hear about it first. Groypers, again, another informal online community, really just the name for fans of a certain podcast live streamer, have references like Bella Ciao, even though a community like that lives in the alt-right, far-right, third-way realm of politics. And you get fascists calling their enemies fascists and using anti-fascist songs and references as an ironic joke. While your average person who doesn't like fascism, even a pretty progressive person who doesn't like fascism, has never heard of it. So that's why, even though the song Bella Ciao is a historical Italian anti-fascist anthem, it does not seem to indicate to me Tyler Robinson is a liberal, a leftist, or Antifa in any reasonable way, and may even indicate more of the opposite. Because Gen Z is constantly navigating a full digital world of mass information on a way to collect labels and references to better understand themselves. Even an extremist pretty committed to one ideology may have an occasional rogue belief or two pulled from a completely different ideology. Young people aren't using the prepackaged party member beliefs of their parents anymore. They build theirs one social media post reference at a time. Traditional parties are too big, formal, and vague to keep up. And as these young people age up and their views trickle up, we're starting to see factionalized splits occur in the Democrats and Republicans. This will continue. Members of organizations are becoming a thing of the past. This is why it's also really hard to prosecute who's responsible for modern-day political violence, including January 6th and likely the Charlie Kirk case. You're not going to find the boss of a formal organization giving explicit orders to members of that organization. That's not how any of this works. And we need laws on stochastic terrorism to really catch up, because it's very clear to anyone people are getting bad ideas from certain groups, movements, and people. We just need our legal models of accountability to keep up with modern social organization structures.